Hey everyone, Tori the Crafty Girl here, and guess what? I had another idea that I wanted to try. So last year I actually made this cowl. This is super simple, and I've had a request to do another video on this, so I'll do another variation here soon. But if I can find this video, which I will, I'll link it down below. Super simple, 160 rows, folded over, stitched together. It's a great gift to give, especially if you make a matching beanie. But I have seen images going around the web on a different style that I want to try. So started making notes, as I do, because there's a lot of geometry and math involved, if you didn't know, for pattern creation and designing. So what you can see this is my vision. Okay, we're gonna do it together and see if I can make my vision happen. So essentially what we have is we have the square, the rectangle, actually it's a rectangle, piece here, which kind of is this. And then from that piece, we're gonna create a long, gradually decreasing tail. And then on the bottom of that tail, probably put, what do you call that? It's not fringe, maybe fringe, but a tassel. So we'll put a tassel at the bottom, but also we're gonna add a few holes, not scary, I promise, but a few holes here in the other side, so then we can just pull it through. I've seen a few variations online done with crocheting and with knitting. I haven't seen one with a circular knitting machine, but if there is one out there, awesome, great job. But I'm gonna try to figure this out on my own and see how it works. So I've started kind of figuring out the length and the row counts and the stitches and all of that. I even picked the yarn that I'm going to use. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna use my Addi 46. So we're gonna go with an Addi 46. We're going to do this on panel. I don't know why that sounded so weird, panel setting. We're not gonna do a tube. So this is tube. That's why this is super simple. It's like, it's so simple because it's a tube and you just tie it off. This is not going to be that easy. This we are going to do panel setting. So there are some specific spacing that we have to account for, especially if we're going to be dropping stitches to make little holes. We need to make sure that those holes are big enough that you can actually pull the tail through. We also need to make sure that it's long enough that it fits around the neck and shoulders. So there are a lot of moving pieces that go into creating a pattern. Not everyone likes creating patterns, and I totally get that. I love it because I feel like it's deconstructing something and recreating it, and it is something my brain really latches onto. So that's what we're gonna do. This is the yarn that I have since we are officially in the Thanksgiving season. It's my favorite holiday, but I love this time of year. I love this time of year. But we're gonna go with this that I've had since last year and just kind of use what I already have in my stash. This is Big Twist Party. It has a lot of those fall colors, the oranges and whatnot. Sunset is the color scheme. And I have two of these skeins, so I might need both of them, but I also think I will do a contrasting color maybe on the end. So anyway, that is the preface. That is what we're going to try together. We'll see if we can make it happen, and fingers crossed. All right, let's go. All right, so I have a new setup here. We're trying this out. This is, like I pointed out before, this is the yarn I'm going to use. I'm going to choose this one because I already have the center pull out here, and I don't know how much we're actually gonna need. So let's begin. And I am just gonna start, I'm gonna put this on panel setting. And I'm gonna start over here. Now with panel setting, I will, as always, provide some links down below in the comments, or in the description actually, that has some really helpful videos. I have a really in-depth tutorial on how to do panels that gives you some tips and tricks in there. And so this one we will eventually be using most of the pins. I think that I've worked out to make it even, I'm going to use 42 pins instead of the 43 available on the panel setting. And we're also going to do some increases. So this is, again, we're going to wing this together. I always like to bring you along as I go, whether it's a success or a failure. So you will see by the end of this video if it was successful or not. But we are going to start, let's see, I have my notes here. I think you can see them. We're going to just start with 3 pins. 1, 2, 3. Actually, JK, we're gonna go all the way around. We need it to be right in the center so that we can work out, because I'm gonna start with the increases. I prefer increasing. I know some people like to do decreases. And I mean, I guess you could do a decrease, but I am just gonna start right here. We're going to, this is dead center right here. So cast on there, we'll do 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's row 1, 2, 3, 4. And there was a little bit of splitting that happened there. This yarn is definitely going to split. So then we're gonna go row 5 is going to be an increase. 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we're gonna do, I have it on here to do another increase, so 9, oops, there's a little split. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. All right, where's my pencil? I'm gonna just make a note because I always forget where I am. So in my pattern, I had it going 11 pins up to 24 rows. So let's see how, this is not very big here. So we're at 11 pins up to 24 rows. We're gonna pull that there. How's that looking? That's getting to be a little wide. Let's do up to 26 rows on this one. Again, just bringing you into my brain as I'm actually creating this pattern. Again, something new. I haven't really shared my process for creating a pattern. I think I've shared some things, but what my brain is doing, or what I'm going through and looking at, is I need for this piece right here to be 18 inches long. I want it to be long, but I also need it to be thin enough that it can go through the holes that I'm going to make, the 4 holes that I'm going to make, so that way when you pull it around your neck, you know, it'll pull the whole thing together. So I don't want it too thick, and I also don't want it short, but I do want it to have a gradual increase, and I don't want it to look odd. So that's what my brain is doing right now, just trying to figure out the right width and length. So we just did 24, 25, let's do 4 more rows just without an increase. 25, 26, 27, and 28. Okay. And this yarn, by the way, even though it's splitting, it's actually really nice to work with. It just goes through the machine very well. So that's awesome. So let's do a quick little measurement just to see where we are with our length. Get a little tug. What are we? So right now we are about 5 inches. And remember, I want this whole piece here to be 18 inches. Now, I want specifically to have, I think, 10 inches that are thin enough to fit through the little piece. Because this, as we get up here, this is going to be the full width of the scarf. So we, again, we're going to have this gradual decrease right here. So we're at 28. We're ready to go to the next increase. Okay, so we'll do another increase round. 29, 30, 31, 32. Okay, and let's do 33, 34. Okay, so we're gonna go rows 29 through 34 on 13 pins. And let's just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yes, we are in the right count. So now let's do another round of increases on row 35. Okay, so 35, 36, 37. Oops, I think I just increased. Did I just increase? Yep. 38. 39, 40. Okay, so now we are at 45 through 40. And let's just take our little measurement and see where we are. One thing I will point out about this yarn that is making it a little bit challenging is it's doing a lot of curling. So this is one of those, I've had this yarn for a year. So it's probably been in the skein for a long time. I probably should have just re-rolled it just to make it a little bit easier. But so far I haven't had any dropped or tucked stitches. So I think we're okay. So let's take another measurement, and this is really my process as I go through and create new patterns. It really is just knit. You know, you do the math first, then you just knit and measure and measure and measure and make sure you're on the right path. Okay, so right now we are sitting at about 8 1/4. Not quite where I want it to be. So let's do, we'll stay with this one. I think we'll do, let's go 2 more rows. Okay, 41. And 42. And as we pull this, I mean, this is gonna curl in. In fact, let's go 2 more rows. I know this is getting, actually, what did I do? I went up to 42. And let's do another round of increases. So that's 42. Actually, 43. 44. Okay, so I just went up to 44 without increases. I just want this to be as long as possible, and I'm realizing I probably should have made it a little bit longer at the beginning just to have that really skinny side to fit through the holes. I don't know if that's going to be long enough. I should have made it longer at the beginning. But this is why I always do a sample first when I'm making a pattern, and then I'll make notes and I'll say, okay, let's go ahead and let's make this bottom increase a little bit longer. So that is what I work through in my head. So I'm actually going to do 2 more rows without increase, and then we'll get back to increasing. So we're on 44, 45, and 46. Okay. Let's change that to 46. So now we're back to increasing. Okay, so that's 47. Okay, 48. 49, 50. Okay, so we did 47. I'm on 50. I'm gonna grab something to help me. All right, and I'm just grabbing this. This is a weight for my Addie egg, and I'm just going to put it actually right in the center, just to hang it down. For panels specifically, having that extra weight on here will be helpful so that those ends don't pop off, especially the longer we get, because it starts clicking on here. Again, let's take another measurement. Oh, actually, let me take this off first. Oh, look at that. We're about at 10. We're about at 10. I'm pulling on the yarn just a little bit, but we're about at 10. We will have a long tassel down here at the bottom. I think, no, let's go. I want to go 2 more rows with just this pin count. 50. 51. And 52. Okay, so we'll do 47 to 52. So now what we're going to need to do is just start doing gradual increases to actually get to the full width that we're going to do for the actual scarf around. So we are going to now just do a row, increase, and then 1 and then 2 rows, increase, 2 rows. That way it gets a nice even increase. So, and then we're just going to continue. So you don't have to hang around. I'll speed through this portion here, because now all we're going to do is repeat that pattern. We're going to do a row of increases and then a row without increases. And we're going to do that until we get all the way into the maximum pin. Well, not the max pin. We're going to go to 43 pin or 42 pins on this one. In panel setting, you can do 43 pins. This is a 46 pin machine, but you'll notice that these 3 are black, and that is when you do panels, these will not knit. So we're going to do 42 total pins. And so we're going to work our way all the way to that, and we'll come back together once that is done. And I want to give you an update because I did something, something happens as we go. So I just did 92 rows. So I'm at increases up to 38 pins. We have 2 more increases. Okay, so I have 2 more increases here. However, where we currently are, on the right side, we only have 1 more pin that we can go to. And on this side, we have 3 more. So I was off a little bit on my first pin that I started on. So I could do 2 things. Number 1, I could make it smaller, and I could, instead of going to 42 pins, we could just make this 40 pins. But we don't really have to do that. We could also just do a stretched increase on this one side. So it won't be a perfect triangular shape, but that actually might work well. We don't know, right? We're going to play with it. So sometimes you get, as Bob Ross would say, happy accidents. That does happen. So we're going to go back around on row 93. We're going to increase one more time, and we're going to come back around on row 94. And I think we're going to increase by 2. So that, and then we can go back around and then increase by 1, and then that will get us to 42 pins. So that's my plan. All right, so now that we've done that, the next stage in the process, so we started from the bottom, worked our way up, and this is where we are. We're now at 42 pins, okay? And we need to stitch enough, we need enough rows here to get to the bottom 10 inches. Right? So we want to get to the bottom 10 inches where we may change colors just to give a contrasting color. One of the ones I saw online did have that. They had an image that I saw had like a white color or cream color here and then stripes down and then had a white tassel. So I might do that because then that'll actually show my brain that there was a change. I think I marked here that I was going to do it in orange, so I might actually do it in orange. And then once we get back here, we'll come back together and I'll show you how many rows do I want to do. Okay, so again, if you're interested in this at all, this is what I'm doing in my brain right now. I'm trying to figure out the distance that I need to do here without doing a gauge swatch or you know, any of that stuff. I just want to just wing it, which is what I do. It's easier for me. So I need to figure out the distance of this or how many rows that I want to do so that it actually will be long enough, but not too long. And the original cowl that I had done was a total of 160 rows from the rectangle from end to end. So 160 rows, and that was a really good length. So if I just want to get 10 inches, what I'll do, in fact, I'm just going to do this right here. I'm just going to mark where we are. Okay, in fact, I'm not even going to close that. I'm just going to mark where we are here. And then I'm going to do enough rows to get to 10 inches. Okay, so I'm kind of doing a, you know, gauge swatch gauge. I always say it wrong, but I am going to kind of take some measurements. So I'm going to do some rows until I get to that 10-inch mark. That way I know how many rows to leave at the very end for me to do the drop stitches and make the holes here. So let's just go ahead. I'm going to stitch enough rows and take some measurements. I think from before when we did it earlier, it is a number, I mean, 10 inches is actually pretty big. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Knit those rows till I get to the 10 inches, put that number down, and then I'm just going to keep going until I get to that bottom portion where I'm going to change colors. And I'll show you how to change, or I'll show you how I'm going to change colors with panels. So I just got to 60 rows after our first 100. And again, we use that little red stitch marker. So we are going to see how close this is to 10 inches. I think this is going to be what we're looking for. Okay. La, la, la. Oh my gosh, it's if you can see this, it's almost, it's like a little bit over. It might be like 10 1/4, 10 3/4. So it's a little bit over 10 inches. So with that, that's kind of our gauge as we go forward, because those last few rows, so about this, at first I thought I was going to do 10 inches, which is what that is. That's a lot. That's 60 rows. I just did 60. I'll probably do another, I'm going to say, I think we need another 90 rows. I think that's what I go for, because that'll be 90 and 60, that's 150. And then we already have 100 for the long dangly piece of it. So I think that should be sufficient. It's a scarf, so it's okay if it's bigger. You just don't want it to be too short. So let's keep going. Oh, I have a tension issue. See, you can see this tension issue right here. That's because I'm pulling this wrong and not paying attention. And that's what happens when you're multitasking. Okay, stuff everywhere. So let me reset my brain. We just did 60. So 60 is 10 inches, that's too much. I think we're going to do 40. So let me write all these notes down in my brain. So if we do this 40 rows, Okay, so this is what I'm doing right now. I'm figuring out how much I want this. So we are going to color change right here. So this is going to be a color change. All right, we've already done 60 rows. So like I said, I think I want to do 90 rows for this portion right here. 90 rows should be sufficient unless I just want to do another 100. I mean, if I have enough yarn, I might just do that. So we're just going to put 90 to 100 just as tentative. And then we have 40 up here. Now, because we're going to break it in half and we're going to put some drop stitches in here to create that channel for the long, the point to go through. We're going to do that at 20 rows. So essentially what we'll do, we'll get either to 90 or 100. I'll measure it and see where we are. We'll do a color change and we're going to switch to, I think, an orange, because I think that'll be really nice for fall, for the winter months. It goes nicely together. So we'll do a color change here. I'll come back and I'll show you how I do that. And then we'll do 20 rows. We'll do some drop stitches to make the holes. Then we'll come back, do our last 20 rows, and then we will cast off with waste yarn. And then we'll see how my brain did and if it actually worked out the way that we wanted to. All right, so I just got to 100 rows because I just kept going because I had enough yarn. I still have yarn left on this skein, so I'll be able to make some pom-poms out of this. There's not very much left, but it's time for a color change. So we ended up doing 100 rows for the bulk of the body. And now we are here where we're going to do a color change. Originally, I was going to do a solid color, but I really love, this is one of my favorite, this is all I have left of this. This, I think it's called Vintage Retro, but what I love about it is that it does have a little bit of a pattern, but the predominant color is this cream color. So that'll pull from there. Also, the reds and the oranges will pull from here as well, and it'll be complementary. So it won't be so stark where it's, you know, a pattern and then just a solid color. Although if you like that, go for it. I'm just trying something a little bit different. And this is all I have. So hopefully we have enough. Hopefully we have enough here to do the 40 rows that I need. But what we'll do is we'll start with 20 rows and we'll see where we are. But color change, that's what I need to show you. Now, the great news with color changes, even with panels, it's pretty much this, you know, a similar process. However, what I recommend is, especially because we're going to be changing colors and it'll be very noticeable if you just change it right in the center here. So you do want to change it on one of the ends. So, you know, easiest way to do that is going to be, you know, you could tie your yarn together if you thought that you could really figure it out right here. But what I'm going to do is just a typical yarn change. I'm going to cut off that yarn right there. And I'm going to put that tail in the center, and then I'm going to take my new color and I'm going to put that through the machine, and then I'm going to hold these two together. And you do want to have enough tails, oops, what am I doing there? There we go. You do want to have enough tails that you can tie them together and hide them at the end. Since this is not going to be a double knit, you are going to have to hide those tails. You can't just let them be free. You're going to have to weave them through. So you do want to leave enough yarn tail to do that. So we are going to hold these. You do want to have tension on both. Now that's what the challenge is, because you need tension here and you need tension here. So I'm just going to reverse here, and I am going to put it under this. Okay, I'm going to put it under this pin right here. Even though this one is not being knit, it's just kind of going to hold the yarn tails for us as we start the yarn change. So then we're going to hold onto it. You're going to give it some tension so that it gets under. Okay, so we want it to get under here. And then we're going to go back to holding this to provide some tension. And we always go slow with yarn change. Also, I will say, make sure you're using similar yarn. If your yarn weight is different, it's going to be very noticeable. And I'm just going slow on these first couple of rows, especially when we get back to here, just making sure that is under that pin. Go past it. and then go again. Now, before I get too far, what I am gonna do is I'm gonna tie these together in a loose single overhand knot. Okay, so I'm just gonna tie those together so they don't come undone. That's all we're gonna do there. And then again, once you cast off, you'll just need to hide those tails or weave those tails through. So that's it, color changes, 4 panels. Just make sure you're doing it on the end and then just go slow so that you get under the right pins there. So I'm gonna do 20 rows and then we're gonna come back together and I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna create my holes to pull the scarf through. Now we're ready to drop some stitches, and that's going to create the holes that we're going to be using. So you can see the contrast here is it's not totally noticeable, but you will see it at the very end. And also I'm going to make, hopefully I have enough to make the tassel, and that will tie it all together. That's the plan. So the way that I have figured this out, because it's not a number that I can easily just say, oh, you know, what was my math? 42 divided by 16, 26. Okay, you don't need to know my math. It's easier just for me to go through and figure out my counts and get it even. So what I ended up doing is marking, so there's 5 stitches on both sides, and then we're gonna drop these 4. And then we're gonna stitch 5 on both sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. 5, and then we're going to drop 4 stitches, and then we're going to knit these 6 right here. So we have 1 extra stitch, and I'm going to put it in the center so that it is evenly spaced all the way around. And this is what can be a little scary because we're dropping stitches, but it's not the end of the world. We just need to do this. We're going to use our hand-do crochet hook, and we are just going to go here until we get to this first pin here. And we're gonna use our little, that's not gonna work. Let me find, here we go, curved needle. So we are going to come under here, and I'm using my metal needle. It'll be a little bit easier to pull this yarn up and over, okay? So we're going to release this, but don't let it go. In fact, you can just use that stitch marker if you want, just to make sure that it is not going anywhere. We need to make sure this is out of the yarn guide, but it goes under this needle, because if we don't go under this one, these are going to be all live and they're all going to drop. So we're going to put it under here, and now we are going to crochet, don't get scared, but we're going to crochet these next 4 stitches with this working yarn. So we've already dropped that first one, so we can pick up that loop. Okay, so it's on our hook now. In fact, I'm gonna still leave this. Just like to leave my pins marked. So I'm gonna pick that up. Again, making sure that it's under here. In fact, we can go a little bit further over. Okay, and we're going to, okay, take the yarn tail and we're going to pull it through that stitch. So now we've picked it up. So even once, now that we're dropping it off the needle, it's not going to keep going down. That's the whole point of this. And we are making sure that we're not re-knitting this. Then we're going to go to the next one. Okay, pick this up. Figure out which direction is easiest for you to get them out. Okay, again, go through your, okay, you're gonna put that loop through your crochet hook, and then we're going to pull through once, and then I am gonna yarn over and I'm gonna pull through again. I want this to be loose, okay, so then that way we have enough space for the end to go through. Okay, we're going to do that to the next one. Okay, pick that up, yarn over, and this time I think I'm okay just pulling it through like that. We just don't want it too tight. All right, and then we have our 4th one that we're going to come over here. do that. And the reason I'm kind of adjusting as I go with these crochets is because if it's too tight, it'll pull and it'll pop off the stitches. So I don't want it to be too tight. I don't want it to be too loose. So I'm just playing around and seeing what happens. And now that we did that fourth, so let's make sure. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Excellent. So now we need to put our yarn tail back in. Okay, I don't want to confuse you, but we're going to put it in. We just need to make sure that it is not getting picked up by that 4th pin. It's hard to do this with this crochet hook in my finger. There we go. Okay, so we don't want it to be in there. Okay, make sure that you are down. Okay. And then we're going to continue. So then now our working yarn is going to be picked back up by this one, but now we're going to take this loop and we're going to put it on top of here. So this is why making it not tight is so important. So we put that on there, push it down, and then we're just going to knit as we normally would until we get back to the next round of drop stitches. And so we're going to do that. We're going to drop these 4 stitches. We're going to knit a regular row, drop these 4, knit, drop those 4, knit. Then we're going to go back around and we're going to recast onto those. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and here we are. That's our next dropped one. Just double counting measurements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. It does take some time, but a lot of these advanced techniques, these little techniques, just allow you the opportunity to do so many cool things. And yeah, the circular knitting machine is amazing. You just get creative with it. All right, and I'm gonna do this all the way around and I will come back and show you when it's time to recast on. All right, so we just finished the row, and just to show you, we have, and in fact, I did 4 stitches. I probably could have done less, probably could have done 3 stitches, but there's the little hole there, there's a hole, there's our hole, and then our last hole is over here. And we have just made the turn and we are coming back. So this is gonna be interesting because I did this a little bit differently than what I typically do. All right. So now we need to cast back on to these stitches right here so that we can continue knitting. So we just passed this one and this is the first one. So this is going to go around, in front, behind, in front, and then in front. And then that should still all work out because we're essentially just casting on to these stitches one more time. Oh, this is weird doing it. I'm doing it in opposite direction than what I normally do. So behind, in front, behind, in front, and then we need to get this back into the yarn guide, okay, to pick up that stitch right here that is live. Okay, so now we're back to those drop stitches. We're going to do the same exact thing. Okay, oops. Okay, so behind, in front, behind, in front, back into the yarn guide. And we'll continue that. And so essentially we just cast back on to these and then we'll just keep knitting the rest of the rows. I think I'm going to have enough to be able to do an additional 20 rows and to do my tassel. But what I'm actually going to end up doing, just to make sure, because like I said, this is all I have left of this yarn. What I'm going to do is after I cast back on and do, let's say 5 more rows, I'm going to take the end. So I'm pulling from the center. I'm going to take the end and I'm actually going to make my tassel just to make sure we have enough because I'm willing to give up length so I have a tassel that matches. So that is what is happening now. Okay, so we are back to casting on. So that one's in front, behind, in front, behind, in front. behind and front, behind and front. Okay, so now we're just gonna do a normal row. Just again, go slow so that we can make sure we get all of the stitches. Okay, let's do another row. All right, so here is how she looks with our little holes in there, so we can pull our little end through. So you'll see it'll just go through there, and then it'll weave through there and weave through there. I'm pretty happy. One thing that I will probably do, just because of how loose some of these are, I might come back in with this same orangey color and do a crochet finish around the center just to give it more of a finished look. Yeah, I think that would look really nice. So let me make my quick little tassel just to make sure I have enough yarn, and then we will cast off with waste yarn, and then we will see if all of this work that we just did together is going to pay off. And with every video, I always want to show you any tips or any tricks or anything that I use in the middle of the project. So this yarn actually split apart. I was pulling it out, and it must have just been in the skein. It just split apart. I actually just cut off this piece right here. You can see it's really fuzzy. So I'm going to just reattach it. Since this isn't really a color change, I can just reattach it wherever it is. And the method that I'm going to use, I don't have a name for it, okay? I know a lot of people will use a magic knot, or they'll just tie it together in a knot. What I have found the most secure, so I cross it over, and essentially you're making like 2 knots. So I cross it over, these 2 pieces together, and then I'm gonna take this right side, and I'm gonna wrap it around once. I'm gonna wrap it around twice. I'm gonna take the left side. I'm gonna wrap it around once. I'm gonna wrap it around twice. So now we have a bunch of, tied together yarn in the center and these 2 tails. We're going to take the 2 tails and we're going to do an overhand knot. Okay, but don't pull it too tight, because now you have to have a little coordination. You need to pull the bottom 2 strings while you're holding on to the top 2 strings. And then once that is secure, you can just give it a nice tug, and all of this is now fully attached. And it's so attached that you can cut off those yarn tails, so you don't have to hide anything. So we can just go bloop, and over here, get it as close to the knot as you can without cutting the knot. Get rid of that. And here we go. And it's absolutely secure. I love this method, and having this little knot against my skin probably isn't going to be a big deal, and it'll get hidden as we go through. So you'll see as we continue around, you can feel the knot in your hand when you get here, and then you're just going to pop it out of the guide, because you don't want to get that knot stuck in there. You'll break your machine. So you'll pop it out of the guide so that it just has no resistance, and it's going to go all the way through. Okay, so you'll see there's our knot. and then we can put it back into the yarn guide. And then just go lightly, because we don't want that to be too tight. And there we go. Can't even notice. And this will be the inside, so it's not going to notice. It may come to the front of the item that you're making, but it's all good. That is my favorite way. That is how I typically join yarn in situations like this. All right, and casting off, we're going to use waste yarn. That way it makes it way easier when it comes to, whatchamacallit, crocheting the end. I'm just going to grab my waste yarn here. And I am not going to cut this off because I want to crochet and I don't want to waste any of this yarn. I don't have to. So to cast off with waste yarn, I'm just going to take the yarn tail, put it in the center. I'm going to take the yarn tail for my waste yarn. I'm going to hold both of those together while I start the row. Pull it just a little bit. Now, this is going to be... so I'm going to put this around the lamp. So I put this around my lamp and now it's going to stay up and out of the way. So again, getting creative. Feel this. And waste yarn really is your preference, so whatever works for you. This is one that I already had that I've been reusing, so however many rows that was, like 5 or 6, I would assume. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to hit the camera. And now all we have to do, in fact, you know, you could just turn it to circular mode and go all the way around, which is simple. So hopefully that's going to fall off here. Yep. And then we can just continue. The way around. And there we go. Okay, but I'm going to pull it through the center because that waste yarn is still, or not the waste yarn, the yarn tail is still there. Okay, let me show you how I'm going to crochet finish this, and then again, we're going to see if it all worked out. All right, we are ready to crochet finish the end, wherever that may be. No, don't pull on your waste yarn because it'll all come unraveled. I just need it out of the way. Okay, we're looking for here, the inside. All right, and you can see here when it comes to crochet finishing your projects, whether it's panel or, you know, on tube, it doesn't matter. Essentially, you're just picking up all of these loose loops here with your crochet hook. So we're gonna start over here with this loop. Okay, and then we are going to pull our yarn tail through. Tighten that up just a little bit. We're going to go to the next one, yarn over, and pull through. Again, yarn over. And I'm going to do this all the way down, picking up all of these loops. And it'll give us a nice, pretty end for this panel.
Now you'll see how it's curling, and that is another question that I get often when it comes to panels. How do you prevent them from curling? It's yarn. Yarn's gonna curl. There are definitely things you can do. One of the things I would suggest is to get a steamer, like a handheld steamer. That's what I use. I love using a steamer. Not only does it sanitize, which is important, but it also helps get those pieces really, really flat. You can also, obviously, wash your items, which you should, and then reshape them after. So there's that as well. But I find for me, I typically just steam my items on the mannequin into the shape that I am looking for. And then after I wash them, reshape them, and then I may have to do another steam. And that little low hum you hear in the background, my heater, I have to keep bringing that up because it is so loud, but I'm down here in the basement, and if that heater is not on, it is like, you know, ambient temperature outside, and we are in winter, full on winter here in Spokane, Washington. So I have to have the heater on. It's just a little bit annoying. Maybe you don't even hear it. I hear it. Okay. So unless I'm gonna do another row of stitches in crochet, I can cut the yarn and tie it off at this point, and I am not going to. We're getting ready to end this project. Okay, we can cut that there. We're gonna pull that through, and we'll take off the waist yarn here. I'm just gonna do that because it's the top, it's really easy. All you have to do is unravel it, which is why if you didn't pick up those live loops, it would all come unraveled. Okay, there's our waist yarn over there so we can reuse it. And here's our beautiful crochet finish. Look at how nice that looks, right, on the end of our scarf. Great. We still need to finish this side though. Grab that. And where are we? It's already in a bit of a knot, but just want the end to look nice. And then I'm actually going to, on the inside, I'm gonna just do a knot right there. Hopefully that doesn't come out. And now we just need to hide our yarn tail. And when you are hiding, okay, this is why steaming is so good, because it'll help when we hide this. So essentially, yeah, I don't know if it's gonna be a pain to try to do this without being steamed. Okay, I'm just gonna go through. So essentially, and it may seem weird, but you're gonna go under, okay, loops like this. So we're gonna go under a few loops. You're gonna pull that through gently. You don't want it to have too much tension there, but you definitely want it to be hidden. Okay, then we're gonna switch direction and we're gonna go here, here, and you're kind of going at a diagonal. But just don't miss any because it'll be really noticeable on the inside. So we're going at a little bit of a diagonal, picking those up. Okay, and then we're gonna go again, same thing. We're gonna pick up in a diagonal. And then we'll switch directions. And switching the directions of the yarn tail just helps it so it doesn't, if it slips out one area, it won't slip out the whole thing. Okay, and then we'll do that, and that, and pull it through. Okay, now I'm gonna cut it. And now let me show you. So get that all stretched out. So on this side, you can't even tell. And on this side, you really can't tell either. So that is a little tip on how to hide those yarn tails, especially if you're working with panels. Okay, so now what do we have left to do, folks? We have to make our tassel and attach it. And I'm also going to crochet because now, because it was on the machine, it's all stretched out. So I am gonna go back and do a little crochet around this with this orange color. So let me do that. So look how beautiful, okay, that's the wrong side, but look how beautiful this looks steamed now. So the holes, I think it's still a little damp. But one thing I forgot to show you, and so I just wanted to make sure I was clear. So that color change that we did here, so I've now done a double knot, and then we're gonna hide the tails just like I showed you before. So that's all you have to do. All right, and here we have the finished project. I'm pretty pleased. I will say that the single layer, this is more of like a spring time scarf, I'm realizing, because without the double knit, it's actually really lightweight. It's really nice though. So we have our long piece here with a little tassel, and then here are the holes that we made that we put it through. And then I did wrap it around the neck twice just to give it more of like that cowl look. So I'll pull it out so you can see there is the full look right there. Are there things I would change? Yes. And again, from a design perspective, what I will tell you, I would make this piece much shorter. It does not need to be this long. I was over exaggerated on that. Also, this piece, I would definitely make this shorter. So where those holes are, I would probably just have maybe 2 inches before the end. And then I also think that I would do more holes just so that we have more of a pleating effect, because it's you know, it's cute, it's doing what it needs to do, but I think it would be even cuter if we got more of that pleat right there. So if you're still here and you enjoyed this process, thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know if you want me to make a pattern for this. It has a long way to go. So this is, again, if you want to get into making patterns, just one thing to keep in mind, typically the first go round, the first sample that you make is not probably going to be the finished project, or the finished product, but definitely there's a lot of work that goes into it. So hopefully you did enjoy this, and maybe you learned a few tips and tricks along the way. And that is it for this video. And until next time, see ya!